Hello.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Davey.
Here.
Councilmember Laredo.
Here.
Councilmember London.
Here.
Councilmember McCormick.
Here.
Vice Mayor Moss.
Here.
Councilmember Petros.
Here.
Councilmember Segurola.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands
one nation, under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, is public comments.
Right, and I just want to clarify some ground rules. We did call this meeting, it's a special meeting so that we can hear from the public about a resolution or a resolution that we passed. And I'm going to ask all of my colleagues, and I will abide by the same. We're not going to get into a give and take with the public. We're going to let them speak. At the end, we will have an item. We can have a discussion, and then we'll move forward with what we want to say and what we want to do. But let's get through this. I'm assuming we're going to have a number of people talking, so I would like to let everybody be heard. Again, this is 3 minutes, and I want to make sure everybody's clear. You know, our rules are, please state your name, your address, if you are a hired consultant or village employee, and or if engaged in lobbying activities and or representing an organization. For the record, you will have 3 minutes. Mr. Copa, if you will call our first.
Mr. Mayor, on that disclaimer, particularly it's important today under organization that they disclose if they are in some sort of work, if the organization is involved in any way, directly, indirectly with the subject matter here.
That's been stated. Thank you. Mr. Culpa, if you can call our first speaker, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, our first caller is with the phone number ending in 110. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. And caller, you are live.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is Gene Stearns. My address is 250 Cape Florida Drive. I am not representing anyone but myself and perhaps my family, and it's a privilege to speak to you here. I would first like to thank you. Am I being heard, by the way? Is it?
Yes. I hear you, yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is a difficult format. I first want to thank you for putting the issue on the ballot to have the voters of Key Biscayne decide on what is, I think, an historic event. The economy is in the tank. These are very, very difficult times, which is precisely when the government should be doing what you are proposing to do. Because interest rates are low, there's not competition for materials and labor, professional costs are lower. The opportunity to meet unmet needs that, frankly, if we don't meet them, we're going to have a long-term problem that could be potentially catastrophic for the island. And I just applaud you for looking forward and not backward. And I also want to thank you for dropping the proposed charter amendment to eliminate the debt cap. I know many of you thought it was a good idea to put that on the ballot now, and I'm not a proponent of the debt cap, but I did believe it was inappropriate to mix those two issues on the same ballot, as I thought it would be tremendous political fodder for some of the most irresponsible of our citizens. And that's really the last point I wanted to make, which is, having been deeply involved in incorporation in the late 80s and early 90s, it was a very, very difficult undertaking. And what I learned in that process is there's always going to be a group of citizens. We called them then CAVE, Citizens Against Virtually Everything, who not only would argue against what seemed like rational, logical things to do, but always had to make the issues personal. The cost of public service is time, it's money, it's inconvenience. That burden is lost time with your family. Those costs are enormous. but none of us should have to endure the personal allegations that are simply false. We worked very hard to get the issue of incorporation on the ballot, and the people that were involved in it gave an awful lot of themselves to make this community what I think it is today. Local policing, great fire rescue, local services, landscaping, and all the things that make this community what it is today. And those people sacrificed a lot to do it, but it's hard to look back then. The same kinds of arguments were being made then as are being made now. The perfect example to me is, for example, when the county commission had to appoint a charter commission. They didn't appoint people who were deeply involved in the process. They actually put 2 of the 5 members on the committee, one of whom admittedly opposed incorporation, and the other of whom had no involvement whatsoever, but had apparently a friend in the county commission who got him appointed. And that was our present councilman, the kinder and gentler version of Luis Laredo. And there was concern at the time that Luis, we didn't know where Luis came from.
Such a hypocrite.
There was no
personal attacks, Mr. Stern.
Later on. Councilmember.
Go ahead and do more personal attacks, Mr. Stern. That's your trademark.
Councilmember.
That's your trademark. He's attacking me,
Councilmember, you can have your
later
on.
You didn't even let me finish.
And everything. Go on, Gene. Even bring
Councilmember, you're out of order, sir. We need to allow the public to have.
Mr. Laredo, you didn't even let me finish. We didn't know where you came from, but we thought you did a decent job. And we didn't know because you hadn't been involved in it. But the fact that we didn't know didn't mean that everybody didn't give you a shot to do a good job, and you did. And so, yeah, I'm not attacking you. I'm basically making the point that we listened and we heard what you had to say, and you did fine. And no one complained about it after those events. So what we're saying now is that kind of thing that goes on today is the Citizens Against Virtually Everything are going to have their day. I hope they're not going to be successful this time, as we are so fortunate they weren't successful when it came to the issue of incorporation.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, the speaker's going on 5 minutes. We've allotted 3 minutes per speaker. We're going on 5.
I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we're going to have decorum here. We had interruption. I don't want people interrupting. I will determine when people are stopped, they're allowed to finish their thoughts.
Mr. Mayor, you have a duty to us.
Either everyone has 3 minutes or they do not.
Mayor, you have a duty to us who are your colleagues.
Yes, I do.
Stop anybody who's making personal attacks. If you do not do it, I will do it.
No,
Mr.
you will not,
Stearns
sir.
went on to say about the irresponsible citizens, and then he launched into a personal attack.
Councilmember,
it should be your job to stop him, sir, not me.
Councilmember,
You should stop him. You owe me that respect.
Tribes don't do anything. They don't.
But do some decorum. You're the mayor.
Sir,
interrupt them and tell them to stop insulting.
Sir, he was making a
saying
point.
that people
I
are.
allow everybody to make.
And I'm an elected official like you are.
Sir, this is getting out of hand. You're being.
You are getting out of hand.
Yeah, you are getting out of hand. Yeah. All right.
So his attack to me is I'm getting out of hand. Holy cow! Are we really?
Thank you, sir.
Out of sync. It's great to hear from you, Gene.
Next caller, please.
The next caller is a phone number ending in 396. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live.
Hi, this is Jennifer Stearns Buttrick. I live at 180 Cape Florida Drive. I am speaking tonight on behalf of only myself. I have had discussions about forming a political committee to address the general obligation bond if it does end up on the ballot in November. That political committee has not yet been formed. So tonight I am speaking just on my behalf. Again, I always want to thank you for your service on the council. It's a difficult job and incredibly time consuming. As you've already had one meeting this week, this is number 2. And this issue has been discussed for years. I know that there are many people who are arguing that the GO bond discussion is being rushed. And the truth of the matter is I've been speaking to the council about the need to address the sustainability and resilience issues on Key Biscayne since before some of you were elected to council. This is not a new issue. In fact, I was going through some of the chat history in the last couple of days, and $100 million bond issue has been discussed in the active chats for well over a year. So this argument that it's being rushed is simply ridiculous. The allowance of a general obligation bond is a preliminary step that would allow the council to engage in cost-effective financing for resiliency and sustainability projects. It is absolutely critical that this work be done. Your primary responsibility is protection of our investment in this community. You need to invest in our investments. And now is the time to do it. It cannot be delayed any further. Our neighboring communities are taking action, and Key Biscayne has failed to do so. Yes, we've done a little bit, but very little, and we need to do more. I again applaud you for hiring a resiliency officer in Dr. Samimi, who's a terrific addition to our village staff, and I know will lead us through these projects well. And I can't thank you enough for finally putting this on the table and allowing the citizens the opportunity to vote in November. I hope that you will not go back on that decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
All right, our next caller is telephone number ending in 244. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live.
Mark, now what numbers to use so I can call him with the phone, okay?
Yes, can you hear me? I
Yes,
just heard
we can.
Mr. London. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is Alan Fine, 525 Allendale Road. I'm speaking on my own behalf. I would note that I understand that over 300 people signed a petition on this question in just the last 24 hours, so I don't feel like I'm alone. I'm speaking in favor of allowing voters to decide whether or not it's worth about $1 a day to build the infrastructure necessary to protect our island paradise from the ravages of sea level and climate change. A couple weeks ago, 5 of you showed the vision and wisdom to put this authorization for what I am calling the $1 a day bond on the ballot for people for voters to decide, letting voters vote on this question. There seems to be a question tonight as to whether or not the council should reconsider and decide for themselves that we already know better and we don't need to let the voters decide this question. On the merits of it, the 5 of you also spoke eloquently the other night about the merits of the authorization right now, answering the questions like, why should we do it now? Will we be spending all the money at the very beginning? And the answers those questions are clear. The question for tonight is whether the people will have their chance to decide for themselves. Should this question be decided in the marketplace of ideas, or or should you decide tonight that they don't need to be considered in the marketplace of ideas? I'm confident, actually, I'm a confident person generally. I think at the end of the day, conservatives and liberals and Republicans and Democrats, businessmen and non-businessmen will all see the wisdom of voting yes on November 3rd. I'm even hopeful that my friend, Councilman Laredo, will sit down and break bread with me. And I think I can even convince him of the wisdom of including this in as a bow in your quiver, as Councilman Moss described the other day. I don't think this is I don't think the question on the merits is a close one, but that's a decision for another day. The question for tonight is just a basic question of voting rights. And on this day of all, I think the voters should be allowed to vote on this issue. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next caller, please.
All right, our next caller is telephone number ending in 068. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live.
Hi, this is Don Ellisberg, Mr. Mayor, and council members. This is a privilege. I live at 177 Ocean Lane Drive, and as far as I can tell, I'm not associated with anybody or anything associated with this bond issue at the present time. I am following a bunch of very heavy hitter speakers who have laid out why we need to have this bond issue, why we need to, as I think as Alan Fine just said, we need to give the citizens a chance to vote on it and say yay or nay. And I think that that's the important part of the business of municipal governance, to have an orderly procedure and a process to make the way in which we do business clear and accurate, and I think that this is the way to do it. The point I would make is that even after everybody votes for it in November, there is still the question of determining whether you ever want to cash in the idea of the bonds, whether you want to determine to go forth. And so there are many safety checks in this process. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right, our next caller is telephone number ending in 780. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hello, caller.
Again, caller, phone number ending in 780.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Toby Rohr, 1047 Mariner Drive. I want to thank the Mr. Mayor and the members of the council for this fabulous opportunity to come and address you about this issue. I am speaking for myself. Occasionally I speak for my husband, but mostly I speak for myself. So the reason why I want to address you is to let you know that I am very, very much in support of allowing the people of Key Biscayne to vote on this. We have almost 400 people who in the last 24 hours have said that they wanted to be able to participate in the decision of to say yay or nay to this vote. As a homeowner living in a wonderful island paradise, I would not be able to thank you enough for keeping it exactly that, an island paradise. But it takes money, it takes work, and it takes community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller.
Next caller is telephone number ending in 168. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. And caller, you are live now.
Good evening, council. This is George Mendia, 111 Island Drive. I want to thank you for allowing our community to participate in this process by placing the general obligation bonds to a vote. It's unfortunate that so much misinformation is being propagated by a few people, whether it's saying that this is being rushed, which we know it's not. We had this discussion about undergrounding and how to fund that. So this discussion has been going on for a while. Concerns about future councils and what they might do. Well, those councils are going to be voted in by us. You know, we have elections, we have a democracy. You know, we're going to choose who's going to be there. So we can't ignore the voters. Obviously, you know, and it's clear that GO bonds, you know, are an appropriate and very fiscally responsible way to fund large infrastructure projects. Placing them for a vote now is a responsible thing to do as we plan for the future. There is no reason to wait. I have yet to hear one good reason to wait. So thanks again. Appreciate your time and good luck tonight. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Next caller.
All right, our next caller is telephone number ending in 574. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hi, this is Jan. Sorry. Hi, this is Jan Dillo. I'm at 350 West Heather Drive. I'm a resident with no other affiliation. I'm just going to make this short and sweet because I think other people before me have spoken about most of the things that I want to say. The bottom line is I'm very much in favor of going forward with this referendum. I think it's important that you as council members have another thing that you can use, another way to finance cheaply. And we know that this is something that you will be using, that you and future councils may be using. I am one of the nearly 400 residents that signed this petition. This petition, I would just say, it was started yesterday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So to me, that's saying that a lot of people have very strong feelings about this. And I hope that you hear their voices when they say they want to have this referendum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have no other people signed up for public comments.
Okay. All right, let's give a few more seconds just to see if we have any.
Maybe ask if anyone wants to raise their hand and explain how to do that, Pete.
Thank you. If anybody would like to speak, you need to raise your hand. Pete, can you explain the process if they're on their phone and they're not doing?
Yes, if you're on your telephone and you wish to address the council, please press *9 on the telephone. Mr. Mayor, we do have one more caller. Telephone number ending in 752. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hello, this is Patricia Woodson at 472 Warren Lane. I want to thank you again for your leadership in deciding to enable voters to have this opportunity to vote up or down, whether to invest in the viability of life as we know it on Key Biscayne. Of course, to rescind this resolution, in my mind, is unthinkable and would be to really disenfranchise our ability to vote and to participate. So my concern is that, because I do believe that I have faith in all of you that we can move forward this evening, and the subsequent education effort by the village to inform the public and to clarify the misunderstandings that are already, unfortunately, in many people's minds as possible facts, unfounded fears, is going to be absolutely crucial. So I hope that's a robust education process. And I think incorporating into that process a review of what our public engagement and input opportunities are and will be along the way. I think that there are many people who are not familiar with the fact that we need 2 public hearings and that there's ample ability for public input, that you welcome it, and that this is our DNA of public participation and collaboration with the council. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, our next caller is phone number ending in 307. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hi, Charles Collins, 124 Kadima, Coral Gables. Before I start, I just want to say I haven't heard from Gene Stern in, 30 years. When I was a lonely union rep and the incorporation started, I liked the process, but I needed, my union saw it as a threat to their jobs. Gene taught me how to mitigate that issue. And then later when we founded Palmetto Bay, he was my mentor when all the caves were surrounding the issue, but that's another day. Glad he's still around. Anyway, I'm speaking in support of the resolution, but I'm representing the Russian trolls. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. Because tonight's bond is so broad, a lot of responsibility will be added to this and all future councils. And I would like some clarification on the structure of that oversight. On reading my 2020 Village Handbook, I understand a single reading approved by a supermajority of 5 is required to place the bond on the ballot. However, after the voters' approval of the umbrella referendum, the more important execution of the specific contracts, awards, and bids falls largely to the quorum. The charter notes that the quorum is 4, of which a majority is 3, but in the event any of those 4 members declare themselves ineligible to vote on a specific item, a unanimous vote of those remaining would affirm the item. Surely I'm reading this wrong, because as written theoretically, 4 members of the council show up, 3 declare a conflict, 1 runs the vote. Yeah, maybe they meant 4 voting councilmen make a quorum. I know it's a crazy, but you get the point. If you told me a year ago under Florida sunshine we could place a $100 million GO bond referendum on a 1-hour Zoom, I'd say you were on crack. So in conclusion, as a Russian troll and a member of the Rebel Secret Alliance chat room, it is our opinion now with limited bond capacity, there is a greater value to allowing the public to prioritize these items. And by merely repackaging them tonight individually and putting them on the ballot, you could expand the ballot language, prioritize the projects, and placate the rebels, enjoying a unanimous win in November. I would even go so far as to offer that if we would support a slight uptick in the village debt ratios if all of these 3 items passed overwhelmingly. Thank you, and I'll see you at the polls.
Thank you, sir. Any more
All
calls?
right, our next caller is phone number ending in 811. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Coslin. And I'm a resident at 255 Sunrise Drive.
Okay.
Since 73. Can you hear me?
Yes, there was a little reverb in the back. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just calling to voice my support for the bond and for voters being allowed to vote. And as usual, I will keep it short. Have a great evening. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, our next caller is phone number ending in 530. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
This is Luis de la Cruz, 640 Allendale Road. I think this is the easiest issue that has come before you and will probably ever come before you as a council member. I know I never had an issue this easy when I was a council member. I think that adding another arrow to the quiver, as my good friends have suggested, is absolutely required. I mean, it doesn't make sense not to do it. I have tried and I've tried to talk to the people that are opposing this and come to some kind of understanding why they would oppose having one more very attractive way of financing projects in their arsenal, and they really don't have an answer for it. So all of you on the council know how I feel. I've made it clear to all of you, and I've made it clear to anybody who I've spoken to within the past couple months. So I just wish that everybody came to their senses. This should be a unanimous decision today, and it should be a unanimous decision in November. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, our next caller is telephone number 298. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
This is Nancy Ellisberg, 177 Ocean Lane Drive. I am a full-time resident and I'm speaking for myself. There seems to be a division within some of the people who are in this village as to whether we need to do these projects or not. And they see the acceptance of putting this referendum on the ballot as an automatic, we're going to do all of these projects. This referendum is for 3 projects that are desperately needed to improve the property of village in addition to our own personal property. Putting this referendum on November will give everybody a chance to vote yes or no. If the projects need to be done, which I believe they are, going the bond route is the cheapest for everybody. And I thank you for your attention, and I thank those who have the courage to put this on the referendum as a vote in November to let people at this time tell you what to do. Thank you very much.
All right, our next caller is telephone number 501. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hi, this is Louisa Conway, 151 Crandon. First, I want to say something to Ed, Katie, and Brett. Sorry for the tough email that I wrote to you the other day. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. And I'm hoping tonight the three of you will rethink your vote. Last year, I came before you all, and I thought that we should have a referendum on undergrounding. And you voted 6-1 against. You said government by referendum. I think some of you said was undemocratic. But this year, you're coming forward with a referendum for a $100 million bond, or maybe now you'll reduce it to the debt capacity bond, maybe 82 million, maybe 64 million. I completely understand where you're headed, and I don't fault you for it. Capital investment in our island is extremely important. We all agree with you. And we also all agree with you that we should vote, but not on this. I think you all owe us to go back, come up with the strategic priorities, give us the projects that you think are very important for us to undertake. Plan them, budget them, come to us. Give it to us if you need in a referendum. Educate us, elucidate us, and we will vote for them. And so all I would ask you is rescind tonight the resolution for the $100 million bond. But you're not going to take away your ability as the policymakers of this island to come back to your constituents and focus us, because we're with you. But we're counting on you to lead. We're counting on you to come back with that vision. You just didn't come with it in this rush on June 30th. That is why you're getting opposition. So that's what I want to leave you all with tonight, because I think you have a tough decision tonight. I think people like me who've been very opposed, I took out a personal ad to try to educate people, not to misinform them. So I will take on anybody who says we misinformed. I specifically took language from the resolution and ordinance that you were proposing. So I stood up for the village manager. I have stood up for this village government. I think we have a great government. I think you are trying, and sometimes you get misled. But I am counting on all of you tonight to do the right thing by the voters and to do the right thing by Key Biscayne taxpayers. Please don't forget us, because we are the ones that are going to have to pay for this. That is all I would ask of you this evening. And I would ask, just like I had to backtrack, I'm asking you to rethink and rescind this resolution, but please come back to us with those projects that you would like us to invest in. Thank you and good luck tonight.
Thank you. Next call.
All right, our next caller is telephone number 047. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Gary Gross, 211 Island Drive. Thank you very much for letting me speak again. I'll promise to be very brief tonight. A lot has been said, and I agree with most everything. All I want to add is that since we incorporated, I don't think we've ever had anything so critical to this village as the passage of this GO bond. And I can't imagine any valid reason for taking the right to vote for this away from our citizens. It's their future, it's their money that's going to pay for it, and they certainly have the right to vote for it. If the issue is educating and explaining, I think there's plenty of time to do that between now and November. As a matter of fact, it's incumbent upon the village and whoever you want to help the village to make sure that our residents are informed of the importance and what the money potentially will be used for and what the bond will look like and so on. And I have every confidence that this council and our administration has total ability to do that. So I encourage you to stick to your guns, let this vote take place, and let our village residents decide their own future. It's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anyone else signed up at the moment. Oh, strike that. Next caller, telephone number 164. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Go ahead, caller.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. This is Will Tompkins, 654 Hampton Lane. I'm calling and putting my support behind the GO bonds, just like a lot of the other callers. I think it's a no-brainer. And I'll keep it brief. Appreciate everything that you guys do. Hopefully we make the right call here for the future of the island. Resiliency is key. Have a great night, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, our next caller is telephone number ending in 867. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Thank you. My name is Sam Schrager. I live at 607 Ocean Drive, and I am not affiliated with any organization or any groups concerned with this particular proposal. I just want to state for the record that I am firmly in support of this proposal. I fully understand that people are scared. People are frightened about the future, and they're frightened about where we're going to be financially. But this is the time to do bold things. This is the time to make investments. I read where one opponent of this project said there was nothing urgent. When it gets to be too urgent with sea level rise, we're in big trouble. This is the time right now. And to put this vote off would put it off to a time when we could not get the most citizen participation by allowing the voters to vote at a referendum during this election. I understand that there are portions of this proposal that may benefit some people and not benefit others, but I see it as a great compromise. There's something here for everybody, and we all have to chip in. So please keep this matter on the ballot for November, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Next caller.
All right, Mr. Mayor, there are no callers signed up at the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to address this council, please press star 9 on your telephones now.
Mr. Mayor, since earlier it was our council members mentioned that there was nobody on the line, I have gotten inundated with texts, people who are trying to get through it on the call. Ironically, out of 16 calls, 15 are for committing to this thing, and some of them are pretty much insiders in this community. So something is wrong with the system that they're not getting through. Clearly, notwithstanding what the vote is, it's more than one person who wants this rescinded. So I don't know if it's a technical problem, but they're texting me since that comment was made earlier, I think by Peter, that they're not able to get through.
Why don't we restate the phone number to call in and the exact amount and give people a couple of minutes to see if they can get through?
Yes, ma'am. 1 second.
Somebody else just came through.
We do have one more caller that just patched in. Telephone number ending in 445. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Theo Holloway, 575 Crandon Boulevard, Key Biscayne, 33149. I thank all of you for your time. I initially thought that this meeting was unnecessary and redundant, but after hearing the speakers tonight, I found this meeting to be very useful, not only in explaining to the residents who may not fully understand the purpose of a GOB, but also to demonstrate to you, the council members, just how critical it is to proceed with allowing voters the right to vote. Thank you for your time, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'm also getting a message saying that people trying to call in are getting a message saying no more callers are allowed. I'm not sure where they're getting that from.
How do we, what's going on with that?
So I'm gonna,
Do we have a limit on the number of callers that we can take?
should be unlimited, sir.
It's what?
Our account should be unlimited.
Okay, well, I mean,
I'll give the telephone number now.
well, but they can't hear us because they're not on the call.
Unless they're watching on television, sir.
Oh, true, true.
It says two more people raised their hand. I don't know.
Would you prefer me to do it after they speak?
Yeah, well, yeah, keep going. Yeah, if we've got people who want to speak, let them speak. But
All right, our next caller is telephone number 307. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
This is just procedural. The recording on the call end on the phone says *6 to unmute, and what I'm hearing from you it's *9. So that's part of my problem. Thank you.
*9 to raise your hand, sir. I think that's, and then *6 to unmute.
No, I'm on a phone. There is no raise your hand.
It's *9, sir. Raise your hand.
Okay, go ahead. Your name? Who's speaking?
Caller?
Hello?
No. I just made a procedural call. I've already spoke. You got *6. If you're calling in on the phone, it says dial *6 to unmute. Is what the recording says. And when you do that, nothing happens. You got to listen to the clerk to tell you hit *9.
No,
Follow what
*9.
I'm saying?
So you can be seen by the clerk or by the IT, so that they can see that you want to speak. The *6 unmutes your phone so you can speak. But the *9.
Right. I'm sharing that that's not working. All right. I'm on the phone and that didn't work. That's how I got through with you. Anyway, never mind. It's not important. Continue without me.
It is very important. Something is wrong because of the sex.
Yeah. I'm an IT guy from way back. I'm telling you, it's a recording when you call in on a phone, on a cell phone, to join the meeting. The lady says to unmute, dial *6. But when you guys talk, you say hit *9. Only the *9 on a phone works to get you unmuted. *6 does nothing.
Oh, I see. Well, okay. That may be the problem. But people aren't actually raising their hands to speak. I think that's the problem as well.
Well, you ain't going to see me raising my hand. I'm on a cell phone. All right. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
All right, our next caller is telephone number ending in 456. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Patricia Romano, 361 Beechwood Drive. My only alliance is to Key Biscayne. I thank you to all the council members and to the manager for your service. We miss you alive, but we have to take this. I'm only hoping that you will vote to put the bond like it's supposed to go to the voters. We, the owners of real estate property in Key Biscayne, have the right to decide if we want to get cheap money to do the projects that are needed to maintain our property values. So this is a democracy. We need this vote. So please vote yes for this to go into the November ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to call in and address the council, the telephone number is 305-365-7569. And the meeting ID is 231-627-8415. Once you are patched in the meeting, please dial *9 to raise your hand and to be seen by us. Also, if you look at the bottom of your screens, you will find the phone number and meeting ID available.
Does anybody raise their hands?
No one yet, sir.
Okay, let's give them another minute or so.
Sir, we do have a caller, telephone number ending in 700. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Good evening, it's Andrea. I was just testing the system. So folks can call in using *6, but then you will be prompted and put on hold, and then you do have to hit 9 to raise your hand. Hopefully that helps. Thank you.
All right, never mind.
All right. Anybody else?
We have someone connecting now without a raised hand though, yes, sir.
I think that may be Ed trying to get back in. Ed got disconnected.
I have a phone number ending with 076. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Al Menendez, 201 Crandon Boulevard. I am a resident. I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not an interested party in any way, sort, or form. I will say it has been hard trying to get on here. So thank you for putting that on. And thank you for listening to us. I guess I'm the minority when it comes to the people speaking today, but it certainly is not reflective of what we see out there. I don't think anybody has any issues whatsoever with improving our quality of life, our property values, and all the enjoyable things we have here in Key Biscayne. However, there's a lot of concerns, and there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of misinformation, but here's the fact. In 2008, our millage rate was at 3.2. By 2018, it dropped to 3.0. We should all be really happy, 6.2% decrease. What's happened since? 2008 to 2018, property values went up, assessed values went up 47%. These huge surpluses were used as a cushion, or where did they go? Where was that spending? Since then, 2018, property values have begun to decline. One of the only municipalities in Dade County with that dubious distinction. That's kind of similar to a business who is losing customers, and we've had to increase our millage rates. We raised it last year, we're raising it this year, and that's just to stay flat. If this was a private company, I don't think too many people would be very happy with our performance. If this was a private household, we'd have to declare bankruptcy, and/or we'd have to charge our credit cards. So for all those people that are saying, why now? Why the hesitation? Is because our past track record has not been one of the best. Why wait? Let's figure out where all that money that has been spent that was not allocated to infrastructure, where we had those surpluses, and now we're coming back to taxpayers. We do have, in case people don't realize, a pandemic out there. Things are only going to get worse. Businesses are struggling. Investors are not buying our properties because the returns are not there. And raising taxes is a deterrent. Raising taxes is not what you do when you have a recession. So what citizens are saying is maybe we should take a time out, figure things out, and then go back to the well and start spending where we should. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everything everybody does, but I think we need to look at the facts and divorce ourselves from emotions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Mr. Mayor, I do not have currently anybody signed up to speak.
Okay. All right, is Ed back in?
No, sir.
Okay. I know he'd gotten bumped. So.
Sir, I do have another caller.
Okay, one more.
Telephone number ending in 262. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hi, this is Rachel Alves de Lima, 430 Grand Bay Drive. I just wanted to speak up on behalf of, I think there's just quite a bit of division going on the island, which is upsetting to see because I think this is a very great community and we all love living here. Obviously, I think that, you know, explaining what the GO bonds are about will be very helpful in that division. But I think it is also up to the voters to decide whether we want or do not want to have this happen. And I think taking it off right now would be unfortunate because there are clearly a lot of people who are very concerned about our island and the future of our island, and obviously as property owners, how we feel about where we're going forward with our community. So I just hope, I don't participate a lot in politics on the island, but I just hope that, you know, you guys, obviously it's a tough job and I appreciate all that you do. And you will consider all the voices that are sending their messages out to you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else?
No one yet, sir.
Okay, well.
A few people have entered. Maybe it's worthwhile telling them what to do or how to do it.
Right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to address the council and you are already enrolled in the meeting, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Ladies and gentlemen watching channel 77 or watching online, please look at the bottom of the screen. You will find the telephone number and meeting ID. All right, sir, we do have one caller, phone number ending in 253. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hi, everybody. This is Tony Cameo. I'm speaking on behalf of myself.
Can you state your address,
we
please?
all understand. Oh, sorry, 151 Crandon Boulevard.
Thank you.
We all understand that infrastructure projects should be financed through long-term financing. That is the most effective way to do that. So from that point of view, the council is thinking in the right direction. My problem with everything is that I think we're putting everything backwards. We need to have the projects that we're going to do that are important get buy-in for those projects. Now, we had one big project, which was the undergrounding, and we had a whole study done on it. And apparently there was a big difference of opinion on how it should be paid for. And I think part of the problem, too, is that the village should understand an equitable way to pay for all these different projects that are in the works or are being contemplated. And that's part of the selling process to get everybody on board. So I think we're going about it the wrong way. I'm thinking from the point of view of condominiums, we never, ever raise money without specific projects and those projects being explained and costed out. We do it the other way. We come up with a project, we present the project to the owners, then we raise the money and we do the financing if necessary for the particular project. I think that it makes a lot more sense and we get more buy-in if people understand the project, how costs are going to be allocated based on the impact on various parts of the community, and get buy-in for those. And then when you have all those together, you can do long-term financing to cover those projects. So I think part of the concern is not only the current situation, by the way, which is an issue that we have to be concerned about, but I think we're going about it in the wrong order of how we should do it. And I appreciate everything everybody's doing and the time that you're invested in this whole process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next caller is telephone number ending in 549. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Melissa White, 370 Heather Lane. I want to thank the mayor and council for a lot of long meetings. I'd like to request that the council give us, the residents of Key Biscayne, the opportunity to vote. I think the manager, the CFO, and the CRO have worked really hard on 3 buckets
of projects that have a price tag to them. I think they've done their homework. They've put together a great website, and it's time now for the residents of Key Biscayne to get involved, informed, and to vote. It's one of the most important rights and responsibilities we have. Allow us to vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, there are currently no other callers requesting to speak.
Okay. I think, people have been calling in. Have you seen people coming in and going out? Has there been?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We do have one caller raising their hand now.
Great. Let him in.
Telephone number ending in 025. Caller, please state your name and address for the record. Caller, you are live now.
Hi, this is Jamie Tompkins, 654 Hampton Lane. I'm calling in support of putting the GO bond on the ballot in November. It's time to let the voters decide. I appreciate all the work you guys do. I don't understand why anyone would run for office these days with the amount of abuse that you receive. We voted for you. Hopefully we trust in you. And now I think we really need to move forward with these projects. So my support is for the GO bond, and I hope that Council Members Laredo and Segrola reconsider their vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I currently do not have anyone raising their hand to speak.
Okay. I think that's...
You want to do one more announcement of how to do it just in case?
Sure, one more time.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to address the council, please dial the phone number 305-365-7569. And the meeting ID number is 231-627-8415. When prompted, please press hash or pound. And if you wish to speak after joining the meeting, please dial *9. For those of you watching Comcast, AT&T, or online, you will find the phone number and the meeting ID at the bottom of your screen.
Levity. Okay, let's close public comments. Let's get to the issue. There is
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, rescinding resolution number 2020-45, calling for a bond referendum election regarding the issuance of general obligation bonds by the village in an amount not to exceed $100 million for the purpose of financing the cost of mitigating the effects of sea level rise and flooding, protecting the village's beaches and shoreline, and hardening infrastructure to the effects of hurricanes, and providing for an effective date.
I move it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, since I made the motion.
You're recognized.
First of all, I want to thank all of those who called in for giving their input. It's very useful, even if I don't agree with all of them. And that is what I struggled at the last meeting, to have this additional meeting, so there would be plenty of opportunity to have all the views expressed on this very important issue. To those of you that have been texting me and frustrated, and I guess somebody else, and trying to get through, I know it's difficult with this new technology. And more than half of those who called in, if you were knowing, it's the regulars called in, so they have it down to a science. Most of them are even former elected officials, but it's our fault. It's a technical problem. We didn't mean to exclude you, but and also those of you who may not share the views, or who would be wanted to reconsider this vote, do not get frustrated. The very first speaker, called, I guess, all of us who have a different point of views than his, and I quote, irresponsible citizens, quote unquote, and citizens against everything. Do not get frustrated. Dean Stearns is a master of character assassination, and that's a badge of honor that you should wear. And it was a very bad beginning to what I thought was going to be how we closed the last meeting on Tuesday. We had a consensus among us that this would be a meeting that was civil and limited to opinions, which are very good. So just to put that in perspective, this thing has been moving along rather fast, and I'll get to the two key issues here because we could probably end this fast. I first started with interest rates being the big impetus, and some of the people who are now dropped that argument because that clearly, and we're not going to spend any more time, it's not a valid argument for a number of reasons. Nobody knows where interest rates are going to be, plus the draws on the bonds are at the time in which you draw them and not on today. The Federal Reserve already on 2 days in a row has said that they will maintain interest rate very low, at zero, in fact, today, almost at zero, for at least 2 more years. But let's move on. And then the next argument became all of a sudden about presidential elections and the turnout, et cetera, et cetera. Some of you who may or may not have been involved in presidential elections know 2 things about president. These are not opinions, these are facts. First, yes, presidential elections have a higher turnout, but they also have a very high drop-off from the ballot. That is to say, people vote for the president, vote for Senate, and maybe the congressman, and then they drop off the ballot. Second of all, the first rule of politics is, and voters throughout, the key element is that people vote their pocketbooks. So there are plenty of experiences and factual occurrences that I don't have time to steal time from tonight, where in fact with non-elections, not only not presidential, but even not November elections, ballots that have to do with pocket issues, that is where the phrase "come is the economy stupid" gets a very high turnout because people are very enthused about getting involved when it comes to their pocketbook. Well, now all of a sudden, and then we'll just land this in 2 issues because now it seems to be that the speech today is about voter participation. First of all, let me just make it clear, if some of you don't know me, I am a very strong supporter of infrastructure projects. I led the fight that in my first year, I've been here just a year and a half, on undergrounding, that was alluded to earlier. What I opposed is this methodology that is going on today. If, when everything is said and done, and this has been a campaign of misinformation, if you think that what you will be doing if you let this move forward and it goes through a referendum and it happens to pass, you are literally, and I don't use this as a catchy word, but as a caution, a reality check, you will be given a blank check to the government of this village for the amount of up to $100 million. Now, what do I mean by that? 2 things. You will not be able, the law and our charter does not require that you go to a referendum. They'll go to vote for you when we have a specific amount of money we want to draw from the bond. That will be delegated to your elected officials. So 5 people or 4 if there's one missing, will decide henceforth how to draw from that line of credit and assume that debt. My position is that we should deal with these projects, specifically with drawings, et cetera, and take them to referendum one at a time. Second of all, the 2 things that it's the scaring people with very clear priorities that I support is flooding that we can do. And we are way on our way with other funds, fully funded, to begin this process right now. The second one that concerns our citizens and taxpayers is the conditions of our beach. We're starting that process of sand replenishment beginning next year with the funds and the debt service that we have today. So if you think you're enhancing your vote, you're voting for giving away your real vote when it counts, which is when a specific expenditure and the expenses that implies of drawing from that account, that is the bond issue when they're being issued or when you draw from that account. So my phrase, a blank check, which comes from an awful lot of experience. And let me just tell you something else. As I alluded to in other meetings, not only is those funds not going to be up for your referendum approval, but somehow things change by subsequent administrations. And I'm particularly concerned because now the very fashionable term of resiliency, and I'd rather call it infrastructure and public works because I understand that. All of a sudden change. And as happened with the Park for People bond issue in the 70s for the city of Miami, people voted to buy parks. And we have in Bayfront Park a shopping center, a basketball arena, and 2 museums. Clearly, whether you support those or not, are not parks. So I am warning you from my experience, and the same thing happened with the Florida lottery that this state approved that was supposed to go up to 100 million, 100% to education, and it didn't. So I'm trying to share experiences. I am very supportive of the projects. I think it's premature. I think you cannot conceive of a worse time. When I say this is not the time, I'm against it at this time of now. And let me define now when I finish with this today. Now it's just not a date in the calendar. Now is a coronavirus. Now is the 3rd year in a row of the declining property values in Key Biscayne. Now is a devastating drop in real estate values next year, appraisals that I've been able to investigate. People in this island are losing jobs. People in this island are losing high-paying jobs and high executives with high mortgage payments and also with kids in college. Today, ironically, the federal government announced this last quarter's economic numbers. We had a 10% drop on economic activity in this country. Annualized is 33%. Listen to me, the single largest drop in the economy of the United States of America ever in its history. So it is in this ambiance that we're rushing people to make a decision, what they think they're going to make a decision about how to spend that $100 million. No, you're not. You're making a decision to give your government and your council tomorrow and the ones coming up literally a check or a credit line that they can then spend without having to go to referendum. What I'm fighting for is precisely for your vote, for your democratic vote, and for that vote to have the weight that you can vote on a project by project basis with specifics and do not let yourself be rushed into a decision. We have the flood control project of stormwater on the way and funded. And as I said, it also the beach. So be careful because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation going on around it. But at the end of the day, it is precisely because I agree with your arguments, all of you today, that you want to vote, that I'm trying to save your vote for when it really counts, which is when we acquire that money. By passing this, you will relinquish legally that right and that privilege and obligation that you should have to protect your money. So I think this will be a major mistake, and particularly for those of us who do believe that we need to do infrastructure projects. It could set us back considerably in accomplishing that which you all want, which I think all of us share that view. So don't get misled. The rhetoric has changed from interest rates to election returns, or somebody mentioned, well, then we have to wait 4 years. You don't have to wait 4 years. You can have a referendum next year. You can have a referendum whenever you want, and we should have it when the numbers are specific and projects are very well defined. And so I urge you, my colleagues who voted for it, to take a deep breath, give the community a little bit of time. We have to educate people. This is not the time. This is not the best way to get the money. You're not saving anything. That's a fallacy, because you will draw that money at the interest rate whenever you draw the money. So there's a lot of fancy talk, but at the end of the day, be careful because you're going to relinquish the power over your taxpayer to the amount of about $100 million.
Councilmember Petros, did I see your hand up? Okay.
Yes, I would like to say some things and comment on some of the things that Councilmember Laredo brought up. I recognize that we all have difference of opinions. I do hope at the end of this, when we take our vote, and that we all end up respecting our vote and make sure that we stay specific to the facts that we all know, and that we don't try to mislead, but we move on to inform. And if it is that it goes to the vote, that we just use the facts and allow people to make decisions for themselves, and that we as a group don't campaign one way or another. As far as interest rates, I think the fact that you said interest rates are going to be low for the next 2 years serves as a support for the GO bond, because when we do have a project in place and when we have vetted it and when we have voted on it and heard from the public whether they agree or not, we will have the ability to go and get that interest rate immediately. So we are not in any way changing any of the methodology that we use. In fact, money that comes from the GO bond has to be passed on a 5-2 vote and not a 4-3 vote. So it's a more stringent guideline or restriction than the other ways that we take our votes. Voter turnout, we have a community who's educated. We heard from a lot of people today. I don't think they're going to skip voting on issues about the community and only vote for the president. I don't think we should be instilling fear and making people feel like we're going to have a blank check. I disagree really strongly to those words, because there's no way we will ever have a blank check. And also, Councilmember Laredo, you're going to be on our council for the next 2 years. So you will be one of the voting acting members who will be looking at each one of these projects. I'm glad that all of us agree that we need to do infrastructure projects, because it's just really about how we get these done. And I believe that we should let our public vote on this at this time. All of the people that spoke today, there is enough people on both sides that we should allow them to have a voice in November. We really haven't had an educational campaign yet. This is the first step in the process. We've had discussion amongst ourselves, but in the next few months, we're gonna have a really robust educational campaign, and let's make sure we support it as a group. I think that also you should know our stormwater infrastructure projects are not fully funded. The raise in rates is going to fund just 2 phases. There's a 3rd phase that will require extra money in order to get it all done. And we don't have enough funds right now to nourish our beaches. We're putting a Band-Aid back on our beaches with money that we've gotten, but we've been working hard for 2 years to try to get involved in a federal project. We will continue to do that. I believe and I trust in each one of us to be very diligent. We had a trying budget workshop we didn't get all the way through, and we're looking to try to maintain costs in every way we can. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't invest in our future. And I really strongly believe we should give our whole community the opportunity to share a strong voice that sends it to the county and the country that we know we're a barrier island. We understand climate change, and we're going to work responsibly together to combat the threats of it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Moss, were you waving your hand? Okay, Vice Mayor Moss, you're up.
I'll speak. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councilmember Petros. That was extremely clear and very well spoken. I would like to respond to what Councilmember Laredo said about giving away the real vote, the right and the privilege to vote. I understand what you're saying, Councilmember Laredo. But people have to understand the process. These types of projects are extremely large. They take many years to put together. I mean, this is not something that we would be able to come up with bids and timelines and plans to bring to somebody, to the people and say, hey, would you want to do this project or not? And again, I'm not into asking people if we want to do the projects or not. I'm into asking if you want us to finance it through a better mechanism or not on this type of project. So I don't think that we're going to spend 3-4 years putting together a project, spending money on getting it designed, getting it all ready to go. And then once we have all those plans, we're going to go out for a GOB. The voters say, you know what? I don't like the GOB option. Okay, well, we're going to go back and we're going to have to figure another way to finance it. I did a quick calculation over, you know, I don't think we'll ever get there, but I took that our debt cap right now, we have a roughly around $60 million that we could borrow in our debt cap. We won't do that. These projects will take a long, Ed, this is what you were going to talk about. But $60 million, we'll probably never get there. But a worst case scenario, which is not even a scenario, if we borrowed $60 million tomorrow, I did the calculation at a 3% interest rate, what a person would be paying on a $1 million lot size would be $30 a month. You know, I pay $100 a month for someone to cut my grass and make sure our landscape looks good. I would definitely be willing to pay $30 a month to make sure that our investments are protected. That for me is extremely more important. I'll do my own landscape myself. I don't mind. But that's something I think that's well invested, and it's really not that much. But I do understand and I do recognize, Councilmember Laredo, that and I know I address you because you brought this up a few times, and some of the people who spoke, I do recognize that, you know, we are in a pandemic. This is difficult. We could, I don't have a crystal ball. We could have a recession coming. It could be possible. It may not be. We don't know. Maybe if COVID disappears within the next year, we get out of this. But I'm sure there are some hard times coming up, and we have to make sure that, you know, we are aware of that. We're conscious of that. But these projects are not happening now. The time that a first project will happen will be down the road, years from now. I would hope that COVID is behind us, that we are, you know, moving up and our property values are going up. We're making these investments. And who knows, if a project of a smaller size starts up, you might be paying $8, $10 a month on a $1 million property. So, you know, for me, I think we got to get away from scaring people. This is not a blank check. This is not a line of credit. We're not pulling anything out. It's still going through the same processes that our government is set up to make decisions project by project. And if people don't want us to do the GOBs, and by the way, 0.5% difference from a 3% to a 3.5% over 30 years is over $6 million more. So it is a big savings when you can borrow at a better rate. And we know historically that the general obligation bonds give better rates. So I think that this is an important vote and we should take it very seriously. Thank you.
Councilmember Cigarrola, were you waving? Yes, you're up.
Yeah. Well, I too would like to thank Councilmember Petros for bringing us back to the facts. That really is what this comes down to. It really should not include emotion at all. I respectfully disagree with a lot of that has been said up till now, because in my opinion, there has been absolutely no reason or argument presented that holds any water as to why this needs to be done now. First, it's already been conceded that we will not have any projects ready for at least 2 years, if not more. So for that reason, we don't need this now. Number two, it's already been conceded. Nobody knows where the interest rates are going to be in 6 months, let alone a year or two from now. So in order to lock in interest rates, there's no reason to do that now. Number three, if you max out the credit cards, and I will not stop saying that, you will not get the lowest possible interest rate on the second 20 million as you did on the first 20 million, as you will on the third 20 million, or even higher from there. No one's going to no one's going to finance us at the same rate as we get closer to the max that we can go. As for the argument that we should let the voters vote, I would again like to remind everyone that a year and a half ago, the same exact people who are stomping their feet now saying the voters should vote completely denied the voters the ability to decide on how to finance undergrounding. But that I'm pretty sure is going to come up again. The best, finally, I do appreciate the new tagline for tonight, which is the $1 a day loan. It's inconceivable to me how anyone can come up with those calculations, given the fact that we don't know how much money we're going to borrow. We don't know when we're going to borrow it. We have no idea what the interest rates are going to be. We have no idea what it's for. We have no idea how long it's going to take to do. But I mean, if those taglines help the process, sure. You know, they sound nice, good sound bites. But in the end, this is going to pass. It's obvious that the votes are there. No one's mind been changed. I thank Councilmember Laredo for calling this meeting tonight, because yes, people did get to call in. I hope over the next few months, people really do educate themselves, and this conversation continues. And in the end, in November, the voters will decide. That's it.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. Clerk?
On rescinding the resolution number.
Can I make a comment, Mayor?
You already made a comment.
Well, Well, yeah, I imagine I have the right to be more than one. I'm an elected official. Can I make comments, or are you going to go back to shutting my mic?
We don't want to offend your feelings. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you have to respect the charter, Mayor. Maybe you should read it. I have a question. I have a question for Katie, and I appreciate the point of view and respect for and Brett. And let me tell you that my respect for both of you went up enormously, because nothing more courageous than amending a position with facts, or at the time that is a very commendable and something that I appreciate. And we avoided, I thought, an even more divisive issue. As you heard me on the budget and everything else, I'm trying to buy peace. I'm trying to buy continuity. These are very difficult times, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to ask you a very specific question, and maybe you can both give me a yes or no answer. Is it true or not true that if you pass, if this goes on today and the voters happen to approve it in November, that is the end of their direct through referendum involving in the spending of that money? I use the word line of credit. That, in other words, that money then can be spent by merely, under the law, a supermajority of 5-2. Is that true or not?
Actually, Councilmember Lerda, I'd like to add, I believe it might be a simple majority of 4, not a supermajority.
I think it may be at that, so it could be a 5. But the point still is.
I see you, Councilmember McCormick.
The direct question is, the council, whether I'm in it or you're in it or anybody's in it, henceforth to that like line of credit. I use those terms. Believe me, I know the technical terms. I use these terms because people understand it in their lives thing. This is like a line of credit. They will not have a chance to vote directly through a referendum again on that. Is that true or not?
I'll take the first swatch. First of all, I am not entirely comfortable with how you worded it. And I would say that what would happen at this point is it would be an item that is consistent with every other item that we deal with, which is that we have our representative democracy and it has a higher tier than before. And yes, we would be voting on projects, but only after we heard from the public, only after it stayed within the guidelines of our charter and our financing obligations, the other ones that we have taken on. So yes, that exists like that. But there are plenty of checks and balances within our system that are outside of a direct line or vote from the residents.
Including
they would have to. Yes.
So the answer is no, because they will not have the chance to vote. They will rely on the trust and the quality of the people. I understand that.
Yes.
But I want to make sure that people understand that this is their vote, their referendum. They all advocated, all 20 who called today, that they want to exercise their vote. What I'm advocating for, I'd rather have your participation vote on a project by project basis, because I do not know who is going to be the 7 people 2 years from now. And that is an enormous delegation of power, even with the checks and balances, and even with assuming the best. I think that I'm precisely trying to support what they're arguing for, to have this referendum matter. I like to have a referendum next year. You remember, my position is about now, not about the process. That we should have this, both because of the times that we're going through, and also because it's not ready. And I don't want to forfeit that power, big power on the people to vote when we're actually going to spend the money.
Councilmember McCormick, you can be heard.
I just would like to make one other thing clear to the people who are watching. The council already has that ability to do these projects within the debt cap. The difference of the council voting to do those projects with money from a general obligation bond instead of issuing other debt or taking out a loan is that it will be cheaper. So this doesn't create a different process. It's the same process, and it already exists, and both would be within our existing debt cap.
Moreover, I would just add that I'm sorry, Councilmember London.
I think Brett was going to answer my question.
Councilmember, I got this, Councilmember.
Thank you. Okay.
Councilmember, go ahead.
I've been listening very attentively. Hello. And
yes,
we keep talking about the blank check. We keep talking about checks and balances. We keep talking about $100 million. Well, right now we deal with approximately $34 million in an annual budget. And the checks and balances are such that when the other night I got up and spent some time trying to convince the other 6 members of the council why we should lower our millage, why we should lower our police, why we should lower our fire. Obviously, the 6 of you disagreed with me, which is your right. You might make a mistake. You're not, but that's fine. That's your opinion. And you decided not to do it. And you went ahead with what you
Ed,
did.
I voted with you, Ed. I voted with you.
No, not. Anyway, you did when it came to do it, but then you went with the rollback rate. Yeah. So anyway, all I'm saying to you, I'm just illustrating a point. You now have $34 million every year, quote, your blank check, and the checks and balances are me against the world trying to lower it, you guys trying to be status quo. No, you did try to agree with me at first. You agree with all the department directors and the manager, and that's fine. That's what it's all about. It's representative democracy. It's points of view. It's who does what, and somehow or other we get along and everything goes along. Not as efficiently as I'd like, but at least we're trying to get the thing, and everybody's heart and soul is in the right direction. Everybody loves Key Biscayne. Everybody wants Key Biscayne to be prosperous, to be safe, to be here. For lack of word, to be here, not to be wet, but to be dry and to be great like it always has been. So that's why I push this thing, even though I'm always trying to lower taxes. I want to spend more money to have the infrastructure in place to preserve the way of life we have, which is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question, Madam Clerk. We're going.
On rescinding the resolution number 2020-25.
You've already read it into the record. Continue.
It's Mr. Moss was going to answer my question, or
I can answer it very quickly.
Yeah,
Mayor.
Okay, we forfeit our vote.
Yeah. So look, there is one vote going on. That vote for me is giving us the permission to use another option for asking for looking at financing. It will happen one time. It's the trust in our government. It's a trust in our charter that future councils will use it wisely. But what Councilmember McCormick said was 100% right. It's not a line of credit, because a line of credit implies that we don't have access to that money, and we're accessing another way of accessing new money. We have the money we can access. We can access up to our debt cap. But what we can't do is access a better rate through a different vehicle to finance it. That's all we're asking for our voters to do.
Well, my question was about that you will not have a right to go to referendum thereafter.
No, they won't have it after that. Yeah.
They will not have it after this vote in November.
Those
you will not have the right to vote on the referendum.
Could we just clarify that a no vote is to keep it on the ballot and a yes vote is to remove it?
That's right. This is a vote to rescind the resolution. Call the question.
Councilmember Laredo.
Yes.
Councilmember London.
No.
Councilmember McCormick.
No.
No. Thanks, Ed. No.
Vice Mayor Moss.
No.
Councilmember Petros. No. No. Councilmember Segurola.
Unmute yourself, Councilmember.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Mayor Davey.
No. Motion to adjourn.
Motion fails.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Have a good night.
Third.